On Wednesday, February 21st, 2024, Jenkins LTS 2.440.1 was released. And on today's show, we're going to be taking a look at all the changes that happened in that release. Along with me today, I have Mark Waite. Mark, how are you doing?
Great, Darren. How are you?
Good. And I forgot to introduce myself. My name is Darren Pope. This is Mark Waite over here. And let's talk about what's going on, because I have a feeling there's a lot of stuff.
This one has a lot of stuff in it. It really does. We're going to have some fun discussing.
Some people may question our definition of fun, but we'll see how that goes. So in case people haven't been here before and they don't really understand what we talk about everything that's happened in the LTS release. And some people are like, okay, wait a minute, Jenkins is just Jenkins, right? No, there's more to Jenkins than just Jenkins. There's actually a weekly and an LTS. So Mark, why don't you walk us through, for people that have never seen it before, what is Jenkins LTS?
Sure. So Jenkins releases a new version every week. We've been doing that for years. Jenkins long-term support release, the LTS, is a baseline release that's selected every 12 weeks that we then backport a set of changes that may have been arrived in later weekly releases. Those backports are then used to establish the .1. So 2.440 came out a month or more ago, 6 weeks, 8 weeks ago. And 2.440.1 is 440 plus selected backports that make it even better than 2.440 was. And we will then, after 4 weeks, release 2.440.2. And after 4 more weeks, we'll release 2.440.3. We focus on stability. Now, weekly releases are already usable for production, ready to go, but some users don't want to upgrade every week. So you could choose LTS and upgrade every month.
And how long is LTS supported for?
A month.
A month. There you go. That question also comes up. Let me ask this question. How long is a weekly supported for?
A week. Well, and okay, what does supported mean, right? So let's play with that one a little bit, because supported, when I say supported, what I mean is, does the security team provide security fixes for that version? That's the whole thing that I mean about supported. Will people answer your questions about older Jenkins versions? Yes, they will. Will people help you? Yeah, they will. The older you get, maybe the less help you get, but they'll help. But the security team only fixes current weekly and current LTS.
Okay. Since this is a .1, there are a lot of items that are in it, which is normal, right? That's what you would expect with the .1.
That's right.
So let's go ahead and get into it. Let me pull up my notes here for this. Let's take a look at, okay, if you've never taken a look at the changelog, it's really simple. Jenkins.io. Somewhere you're going to see download. So you may have to hit the cheeseburger. Do you want a cheeseburger or do you want just plain hamburger? It's your choice. We'll click on download. And then under stable, that's LTS, that's what we're doing. We'll click on changelog. Now, when we take a look at the changelog, what we're going to see at the top is a legend. So keep this legend in mind. Yellow is security. Red is bug. And purple? Sure. Purple is enhancement.
Right.
So keep all those in mind. So we are here at the top. 9 sunnies so far. That's good.
That's
By the way, if you're watching this as we're doing this released, I'm doing the math real quick, probably about 8 hours ago.
Yeah, more like 12, but yep,
Okay.
You're right. It's certainly far less than 24 hours ago this released. Today is release day.
Today is release day. So do we want to go ahead and take a look at, actually, before we get any further, I want to call out this important security fixes, because I think this is one, typically what we do is we'd look at the changes and then take a look at what the backports are.
Right.
I think we need to explain this one because, yes, this is a security release, but it's not a security release.
Right. I like that way of phrasing it, right? So Jenkins 2, if you open the security advisory, you will see what it says is Jenkins 2.441 and earlier had a security vulnerability.
Right.
And in fact, it had a series of security vulnerabilities.
Right.
Go ahead.
Before we even get there, though, notice the date on the security advisory.
Right.
I actually reached out to Mark today. It's like, wait, did we have a security advisory? And then he's getting ready to explain to you what he explained to me earlier today. But the date here is actually correct.
And that date's a good hint, right? That's a month ago. A month ago, we published a security advisory, and the fix for that security advisory went into Jenkins Weekly 2.442 and Jenkins LTS 2.426.3. But remember, our new LTS is based on 2.440.
Right.
So 2.440.1 includes a backport of that same security fix that was in those previous two releases.
Correct. Because the fix was in 442, which is greater than 440.
Correct.
And at the time, we were still on the 426 line.
That's correct.
So it came back to 426 and went ahead and got ready for the 440.1. And now when we take a look at the .2, not saying there won't be a security advisory, but if there is a security advisory for the next one, it's not going to be this one.
Correct. That's right. So
this was just timing.
Exactly.
In this case.
This one, if the security vulnerability had been fixed in 2.439, we wouldn't be mentioning it at all here, right? Because it's in 440 already.
Right.
But in this case, it was in 2.442 where it was fixed.
Right. Yeah, that's a good way to think about it. If it would have happened anywhere between 426 and 440, nothing to talk about. But because it happened after what we're actually releasing today, it has to be mentioned again, even though it's just been there all along.
Right.
Since
right.
442. Okay.
And the user's perception of change from 426.3 to 440.1 in that area is nothing. Right? They will not see any change in terms of security profile. It's still as secure as 426.3 was.
Okay. Good. So don't freak out if you see important security fixes, especially if you're already at 426.3, because everything's already there.
Well, and if you don't have 426.3, then you absolutely must read and heed that security advisory, right? Because that was an important one. We talked about it when we did the what's new for 426.3. It's crucial that you follow the instructions in that advisory. If you can't upgrade to 426.3 or 440.1, you need to follow those instructions.
The workaround instructions.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
Got it. Okay. Let's go ahead and just take a quick glance at this. So in the changes since, so these are backports. We'll come back and revisit these again in a moment. Obviously, the yellow is the security, and then we've got 3 that are red that are bug fixes. Again, we'll come back to that in a minute. Now, I thought this was interesting. This is the first time I've seen it this way in quite a while. We have lots of enhancements. That's the purples going down first, and then there are some bug fixes once you get way down the list. But nothing is major. They're all little small little dots, not big dot like the big yellow dot and the big red dot here on fix missing folders. Yeah, that's a bigger deal. But let's not focus on the bad things yet. We'll come back to that in a minute.
Right.
Now, fortunately, you made some notes, and I did glance at them, but I can't see them right now.
Yeah, well, so
where do we want to go?
The first thing on my list was I really like the widget panel update that was made on the left-hand side. Yeah, the update to various UI elements. For me, that's a cool thing. And we'll look at appearance. We'll look at the top thing as well. But let's look at the widget panel first. So let's go to old versus new. So this is old.
This is old, correct.
On old, look at the far left-hand side below the new item, et cetera, my views. There's a build queue and a build executor status. Notice the styling on those things. So now, Darren, collapse and expand each of them so that we can see them, how they look expanded and collapsed. So remember that. Okay, now go to the new, and let's see what's happened. Notice the styling here. Okay, nice boundary around it with the expanding and contracting rounded corners. It just looks good.
Yep. And if you pay attention, because I caught this earlier today myself, because I run so many different versions, it's like, okay, wait, I've seen that for a long time. It's like just because I've been ahead. But if you just watch the build queue, you're going to see it just sort of change just a little. It's very nuanced.
Exactly.
But okay, that was a cool little just visual.
For me, I like that. Now there have been some other what I'd call UI improvements, but maybe let's go first to the very top one, that appearance category, because for me that one that's another fun one to be sure people are aware. Hey, here's this new facility. So if you go to manage Jenkins in the old Jenkins
Yep.
controller, what we'll see is the absence of something. And as you scroll down, there is no entry in the system configuration section for appearance. Now go to the new one.
Okay.
And notice here in system configuration, there's appearance. So click it. What we've found is that users are increasingly choosing, at least some of them, dark theme. And if you click on one of those, it will show you, there we go. Now you click on default and we're back to default.
Okay.
And this kind of adjustments, now if you had certain other things installed, there would be even more appearance settings. So as a plugin is installed that might consume these appearance settings, the appearance settings actually extend.
Got it. Also, like, do not allow users to change their own thing.
Right. If you really want to tell users this is how this is going to look for everybody, all the better. You can set it and force it that way.
So just for the sanity, I'm going to keep the new in dark, and we'll
you
keep the old
are?
in light. Yeah,
Okay, good.
because that way it's going to be really obvious when we switch
Right.
back and forth.
When you're looking at new, that sounds great. I like
Right.
that.
Good. Yeah, the yellow or orange, it's hard to see right here.
Right.
It's very, how can I say politely, in your face,
It is bright. That's
yes.
correct. It's right there.
which is good. That's what we want. Okay. So if we go back and take a look again, wow, that's bright. So appearance is added to. Now,
Right.
let me ask this. It says add an appearance category to the setup wizard. Now, to me, setup wizard meant during the install.
And you're correct. And I should
Okay.
have stated that more clearly, right? Not only did it get added to the setup wizard, but also in the change from 426.3 to 440, it's added in the system menu. So
Got
you're
it.
right. And that's a good subtlety I should have noted. When a user chooses to run Jenkins the very first time, it presents a setup wizard to them, and it offers, would you like to install the recommended plugins, or would you like to choose your own set? And when you choose your own set, it categorizes the ones that it's offering. And one of the categories now is appearance, and under appearance, I believe we've actually started offering dark theme as a standard capability now. As part of that, you can choose them.
Always pick recommended. Just do it. Because if you don't, and you don't pick the things you need, it may not run.
Well, it certainly recommended is a really great choice. It's certainly a good choice. They're very carefully curated. Sometimes we actually remove things from the recommended list because we prefer something else. Yep.
Does happen. A bunch of French translations.
Yeah, nice.
Good. What else did you have on your list? Because this is a really long list, and
Right.
we'll let
So
people
on
just go
my
through
list,
this.
About halfway down your page, there's the remove build timeline widget. And I'm not sure we even want to, it's right at the top now.
Okay.
So what this one is, and it may be easiest to show it on another machine that's got lots of jobs, but what we had was this interesting gadget that would present a graphical view of the builds across time. And let me say interesting as the kind way to say it, because I confess I didn't find it terribly useful. It's now been removed. It was somewhat challenging to maintain. It just wasn't being perceived as really giving a lot of value. If you'd like to see it, Darren, we could open up ci.jenkins.io and go look at it.
Okay. We'll do that. Well, am I going to see there? Is it still going to be there?
Sure. Oh, no, wait a sec, because it's
'Cause you got
2.440.1.
Yeah.
Sorry. The infra team promptly upgrade, so you're right. We can't
Yeah.
show it. We could look at it.
Actually, here,
no.
I'll create a quick little job here. So
Okay,
test.
yeah, great.
It's like we don't have anywhere to be, right?
We
just here.
don't, and a hello world is a great thing to do, and run it 2 or 3 times so that we've got a little bit of history. So again, this is the previous version of Jenkins, and now in the build history if you click the trend on the left towards the bottom there,
Yep.
so that trend.
Thank
yeah,
you.
that
There we
one.
go. Okay.
Notice this timeline thing across the top.
Right.
And it's got a scrolling, and in some cases it actually was somewhat useful, but I just I didn't get a lot of benefit out of it. And especially when doing something like it was also visible from the agent view and from views.
Right.
And it's just, it was not being as helpful. And eventually it's gone.
Okay. Good. So that's sayonara, out of here.
Right. Exactly.
No longer. Okay. All right. What else did you want to call out?
So back to Manage Jenkins. In the plugin in the plugins section of the Manage Plugins, we've finally moved the proxy configuration out.
Finally.
Right. Okay.
Either finally or finally. Take your pick.
So this is a story of history, right? So plugins, advanced settings. Not many people notice right here. This is the old one.
Yep.
No proxy host, ? And as you scroll a little bit further down, there are other, and if you click advanced, if I remember right, that's where we get all sorts of proxy checks that we can do.
Right.
All right. This is HTTP proxy configuration is not a plug-in thing. This was configuring the HTTP proxy for the entire Jenkins controller, not just for plugins. But you found it always under plugins. Well, it's moved now. It's in a much more sensible location under, if I remember, it's under system. Yeah,
I think so too. Yeah. And once it wakes up,
special thanks to the implementation there. It's impressive how challenging sometimes it can be, because sometimes you've got automated tests that depend on the location of a thing. So special thanks to the developers who did it. This one was actually Olivier Lamy, and he did a great job of making sure that it's still reliable, still well-behaved, and fits well in the Manage Jenkins system configuration page.
I mean, in theory, it should have just been take that widget from here and put it over here.
Yeah, if nobody depended on it, that theory would work. But of course, we have tests and we have all sorts of other things.
And this is actually good too. If you're used to going here, it's now moved. Right. So there is the notification that will take you, unfortunately, not down to the widget. That would have been nice. But hey,
Right.
That's another day, another thing to look at. Okay. So that was proxy. That was a good one. What's next?
Well, so, okay, one that you...
Actually, I want to call out one thing.
Okay,
Can I call out one thing?
Yes.
There was an entry here for, where is it? For some telemetry. Here it is. Add telemetry for basic Java system properties describing the environment. We've talked about the telemetry. Don't freak out about it. But if you want to understand what's going on, let me show you where it is, just because. Manage Jenkins. The reason why I triggered is that we're by there. System. And there's going to be this really obscure box here. Usage statistics. By default, it's checked. Please leave it checked if you can. If you need to uncheck it, great. We understand. It's completely fine. But if you click on the help, this is where the magic happens. Magic? Maybe, sure, maybe not.
Right.
I don't know. Telemetry collection. So right now there is a trial. That's the phrasing that's used. And it ends April 1st. No, it's not an April Fool's joke. It's just going to end on April 1st. So if you opt out, then none of that would be sent out. That's what it is. But what the trial is doing is it's capturing some more basic Java system properties for the reason of...
Well, so helping us better understand our users, right? It's a crucial thing for us to understand what the users are doing and what they're doing it with. So here, you show Java VM version 17.0.10 plus 7. That one line already tells me you've got a nice current version of Java. 17.0.10 is the most recent release of Java 17. Eclipse Adoptium, okay, you're using Eclipse, so we need to be sure that we're also testing with Eclipse, or if we discover, they're using some other variant, we may want to test with that other variant. It's this kind of data helps us decide where should we focus our efforts, where should we put better work in this to be sure that users are better satisfied.
Yep. So if you only get one OS name of BOS, you're probably not going to get a lot of support out of that, right? Just
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah. I didn't know anybody ran Linux, Java on
BOS.
BOS. So that's cool. Yes. If
I
we
don't
get
know.
one on BOS, I'll be impressed.
Okay. Anyway, I wanted to pull this out because a lot of time, especially since by default it's collapsed and it's
Right.
just a checkbox. But there's a lot of information because once this trial is done, this will disappear.
Well, and what the distinction there is, we'll continue collecting the simple metrics that are described above.
Right. Just
Right,
the
the
general.
usage statistics, but one of the things that the Jenkins project has intentionally done is said that when we need to do extra telemetry, we will do it for a time-limited period. And so this time-limited period, mid-December, all the way out to April 1.
Okay. Sorry, I completely derailed it. So let's
No,
go
that's
back to
great.
the list.
Yes, telemetry is a cool story to tell.
Where do you want to go next?
So for me, there's a group of things that are around agent management.
Right.
And so I'd love to talk. That one we could do remoting if you're.
No, let's do
interested.
Let's do agents first because
Okay.
I got started for a little quick.
Okay, so let's do agent management. So agent management, if you go to the old UI,
Okay.
and in let's look at the agents currently. This will have only one agent, the controller.
Yep.
But here, what we already see is, okay, we've got the built-in node, and it's looking at disk space, swap space, and temp space, and response time.
Right.
And those are things that it will. Oh, and clock difference, right? So, and actually, each of those is quite important. If disks get full, CI jobs don't do real well. If swap gets full, CI jobs don't do real well. Likewise, if temporary directories. If clocks differ significantly, CI jobs can have really serious problems. And so those are important things to track. However, now let's go to the new one and let's look at it.
Okay.
So notice that now it's got an icon on the left and the small, medium, large that you may remember from other places. So choose small icons, Darren.
Oh,
All right,
nice.
so we get more information density on the screen thanks to the work that Marcus Venter did to give us resizable and nice fit. Even more important, what Marcus has done is he's enabled that these things can be managed individually by configuration as code. So maybe you want your controller to always have 8 gigabytes of free disk space at least. But you don't care if agents go down to 1. You can manage that now with configuration as code. So the configuration as code piece is really great for those of us who manage static agents like me. I've got some oddball architectures that I manage as static agents, a System 390 mainframe, some Raspberry Pis, and I want exact control over how those things work. And this addition of configuration as code for agent monitoring is a nice help for me.
One other thing I thought was interesting about agents is if you go into it, there's now monitoring data, which is the same as what we were just seeing. But now if you needed this information, it sort of stunk to have to go back to another page to come back to this to do whatever it is that I need to do.
Right, and this presentation avoids some of the wrapping that happens when you're on the
you're
other
going wide.
screen, right?
Yeah.
This is nice vertical layout, easy to read, easy to understand. Absolutely.
Okay. What else about agents?
The other is that Marcus made a very nice fix that we hope most users won't detect. But what happens if I've got a node that is violating one of the checks? Maybe I made a mistake, didn't configure the network time protocol, and its clock is out of date.
Right.
When the clock difference is detected as incorrect, that agent will be marked offline. Well, what had happened before in the old releases was that agent would stay offline even after I corrected the clock problem.
Wow.
Now, the agent comes back online immediately. Once I have corrected the problem, it comes right back online.
So it sounds like the state is maintained, not necessarily state, but the checks are more aggressive.
It's certainly checking more frequently and acting on the information it finds much more frequently, right? And maybe saying it's checking more frequently is the wrong way to say it.
Yeah.
It's taking action to bring something back online, and usually, for instance, if the time was off, there would be an admin monitor which would appear, and that admin monitor will be cleared when
Right.
all the agents that had been taken offline are now online.
So it's a quality of life thing to
It-
where
it-
you could deal with it, but you had to deal with it manually before.
It is, and if you're a user of the version nodes monitoring plugin like I am, where I've got an additional plugin that's watching the Java version on my agent. When I got the wrong Java version, it immediately took it offline.
Yep.
Then I fixed that mistake, restarted the agent, and the agent was still offline. Thanks to this change by Marcus, the agent comes back online immediately.
Cool. Okay. Was that it for agents, roughly?
Those
Okay.
are the key ones that I wanted to highlight for agents.
Okay.
Oh, no, I take it back.
Wait.
There's one more. There
Okay.
is one more. And this one takes us all the way to the upgrade guide.
Oh, well, let's go do that real quick then.
Yeah, because this one, it's on that theme. So go to the upgrade guide for 2.440.1. And in that upgrade guide, what we're going to see is the second entry tells us replace disk space monitor with disk space and configuration as code. So what happened is we've deprecated an old keyword, disk space monitor, and replaced it with a new one. The old one still works. You'll just get a little pop-up that says, hey, you're using an old keyword. Wouldn't you rather use the new one?
So it's an alias at this point instead of...
It is. That's correct. It will not stop your controller from starting if you use the old one. It
Right.
just says, hey, you've got this obsolete thing. Please change it.
Is it functionally still the same, though? Or is it a different plumbing?
There are certainly significant changes behind it because of the improvements that Marcus made in
Right.
the agent monitoring.
Got it. So we just got rid of the word monitor, but disk space monitor is pointing at disk space,
Correct.
and life goes on. Okay. Good.
All right. So now we can go back.
Okay. Right. Where do we head next?
Well, so, okay, one more was you had done a video recently on Unix domain sockets. And I was charmed by this one in that there is now packaging support, so support in the systemd installer for Red Hat, for Ubuntu, for Unix domain sockets. Now, most people may say, well, what are Unix domain sockets? And I think the answer is, if you want to know what Unix domain sockets are, go listen to Darren's video. He'll explain why you might use those and how you can benefit.
Yeah, I had totally missed that it wasn't packaged before. So I went through the packaging that I can't remember who did it. I looked at it and was like, oh yeah, I had to do that manually. And now
Right.
it should cover most use cases. There may be some people that aren't happy with the decisions that were made
Well,
in the packaging, and that's fine.
And certainly this is a relatively newer development, and so we're probably going to refine it further, right? I've seen some comments about, hey, what about the permissions on the socket? And yep, those kind of things will probably get further refinements.
Yep. I hope my video got all the permissions right. So if anybody watches the video and you're yelling at the wrong permissions, I think I got it right, but I may
Good.
not have. I may not
Very
have.
good.
Okay. This one I laughed at, and we'll come back into your list in a minute. Ensure uptime is independent of the system clock. Because the uptime object shouldn't depend on, because it's using system.getCurrent or current time millis or whatever, system.current time millis. But if you think about it, we have daylight saving time, which we'll visit again after a while.
Well,
And you lose an hour or gain an hour, and that will adjust your uptime in a really strange way.
And we have even scarier things than that, like NTP daemons that will adjust the system clock to get it correct, right?
Right.
You could, in fact, go backwards in time, and the system clock could go backwards in time, and there's nothing wrong with that. If you inadvertently started a box and its default time was a year ahead, the network time protocol correctly says, I should reset you back to a more accurate time. We've also got systems that do minor adjustments to time, where, again, having uptime independent of system clock is a good thing.
Okay. Let's go on to your list.
Okay, so my next topic actually was remoting improvements.
Okay.
Because I thought this was a cool set of 2 or 3 things. So I think you had seen it earlier in the list that there was a minor memory leak that was fixed.
Right.
Yeah, and so the what's happened here is there have been some nice improvements to Jenkins remoting as a result of Basil Crowe's doing a detailed look inside that remoting code. And one of them was this minor memory leak was a fix. And adding additional options for WebSockets. Now, lots of people like WebSocket as their way to connect agents, in particular because it doesn't require that you open an additional port to your Jenkins controller, right? Use WebSocket and it talks over HTTP.
Right.
So this was a nice one. Then if you go sort of down almost to the bottom, I think there are one or two more that are remoting related. Yeah, so the bottom one is the one that I found the most interesting. So reduce the likelihood of thread creation errors on agents. If you want to read a good story, read that. We don't need to do it now, Darren, but read that remoting PR 717 because in there, Basil describes all the interesting ways that POSIX threads can have problems on Linux systems that are shown by Java versions. And he ultimately says, look, the best thing we can do is let's reduce the number of threads we're creating, reuse them by pooling them for a little bit, by keeping them in a cache, and we think this will reduce the likelihood of exercising this problem that is known to be an odd interaction between Java and Linux POSIX threads.
Just wait for virtual threads in 21. Just wait for virtual
21.
threads.
Oh, yeah, well, yeah. So
We got to get to. We have to make 21 the base JVM at that point, right? So we're still a ways from that.
we are
Right.
we are quite a ways from that. Yep.
I want to go back over to the upgrade guide because this was another thing that was important that we sort of skipped over the top. Is
Right.
the JNLP URL is now been deprecated. Like this one liner is gone.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And now you have to do separate things to do the things. Okay. Seems logical to me.
Well, and what it is as part of the improvements that Basil was making, he realized that these things really did not make sense. Let's move to things that make sense, that are sensible for users, sensible for maintainers, and keep single implementation inside remoting. If I remember correctly, we had multiple implementations, slightly different, much better to unify, simplify, and make it work better.
Let's see what that looks like real quick. Let's just create,
Oh, yeah,
because
create an agent.
just create an agent that typically, so I'll do this, I'll call it inbound,
Right.
because that's what we're going to do there.
Mm-hmm.
Permanent. And it doesn't really matter what I do.
TMP is an excellent choice.
Oh, thank you. Okay, that's even better. TMP, then what we're going to do is we're going to launch agent by connecting to the controller, and that's all I need to do.
Right.
Okay, so if I go back here to inbound, then what I should see is, where am I at?
Right up at the top. Right up
Thank
at
you.
the top.
Duh.
Run
Okay.
agent from command line Unix. There
Yep.
it is, right? So it says minus URL, minus secret, minus name. So it gives it a name, inbound, and what the working directory is.
Yeah. So basically, all that's telling me is I don't have to worry about this long, ugly
Right.
thing I've got to get just right.
Well, and when you copy and paste, it's a little bit less to copy,
Yeah.
and keeps your life simple. Yep.
Got it. Okay. I think we covered, okay, and that's pretty much all there was for upgrade notes, which is great.
Right.
Anytime you
Right.
see a .1 that's got small upgrade list, it's always a good thing.
We like that. Yep.
Okay. Anything else in the changelog that we need to take a look at least from the newish stuff?
That covered the most crucial things that I felt about touching. Certainly, there is more in the changelog, and the details are there. But for me, I think we've covered the topics that are most urgent for me.
Okay. And I do want to take a look at the backports, just because. Fix missing folder icons. Do you remember the story on this one?
Yeah, I do actually. Okay, so 2.440 had a bug, and the bug didn't get detected, I think, until 442 or 443. So we had to backport the fix for the bug, and this was exactly that bug. What happened was when you were using something like, for instance, a GitHub organization folder or a GitLab branch source, there were times when its icons just wouldn't appear correctly.
You would see either the brokens or nothing.
It was, yeah, I don't remember what the exact was, if it was broken or if it was just the wrong icon. But
Right.
ultimately, it was really one that we had regressed it very recently. There was no way we wanted to ship 2.440 without fixing that bug.
Right. Yeah, so basically what you're saying is what we're seeing here at the top with QQQ wasn't showing up.
And I think it may have been on another page, but yes, it's
Yeah.
that same exact concept, is that the bug was there were places where we were not showing the correct icon. And that's disconcerting to users. They really, really don't, they're not comfortable when the icons don't look the way they should.
Right. Have to admit, being able to have small, medium, large in multiple places is nice now.
It is. It fits very well.
For those of us that don't have 4K monitors and are still running 1080p
Right.
or 8K monitors. Okay. So let me see if we can answer Christoph's question. Are there any changes planned that would trigger a Jenkins 3X?
That's
Mark?
a fun question because we've discussed that. That question has been discussed 2 or 3 different times in different ways. And usually if we were doing a major version number change, it would be because we were making a breaking change. And Jenkins users depend on compatibility. Right? They really do. They are deeply attached to compatibility because they want to be able to upgrade their Jenkins controller. And so we've not seen anything yet that said we would need to do a breaking change that would justify a 3.x.
Do you remember what the breaking changes were from 1 to 2?
I would have to go digging.
But
My recollection was that it was things related to pipeline. There was a piece of it that was, hey, we want to be able to present it as a new bold thing, but I'd have to go do the digging to see.
It was primarily pipeline, though, because everything prior to that was...
If I remember correctly, pipeline was a part of that.
Okay. Is there anything else we need to cover today?
I don't have any other hot topics for me.
So changelog, look at the upgrade notes.
Right.
The big thing to change is if you are using configuration as code, that's in the upgrade notes for
It is.
disk monitor.
Right.
I installed 440.1 today and ran my... I mean, I played with the RC as well, but you know, I can trust the RC until I can't trust the RC. I want my final bits, and when I tested the final bits today, it was like, okay, everything's seeming okay at this point, as we're talking 12 hours in roughly as we've gone here. So we'll be back again on March 21st at 4:30 Eastern, which is the same time as we started today. Now, why do I say it that way? We're in that daylight saving time, people. And this year is worse than most. In the States, we start on March 10th. Europe doesn't start until March 31st. 3 full weeks.
So Darren, I feel obligated. I must express my request. My regular request whenever we get on these is, please, anyone listening to this, lobby with your elected representatives to ask them to stop messing with the clocks. Pick one and stay with it. I'm tired of changing clocks every roughly 6 months. It's complicated. Yeah. So end of my
Political
banging on
rant.
things.
Yeah. And I went ahead and looked ahead too, just because planning. At the end of the year, it's who goes out first. I think Europe goes out first, and then a week later, we follow. So it's only 1 week that time, but not 3 weeks. I can't remember a 3-week run in a very long time.
Well,
So anyway,
and of course, India doesn't change times at all. And many countries at the equator don't bother with messing with their clock. So yeah.
some states don't change.
Right.
Some
Arizona does not change. Hawaii does not change, right? So yeah.
but some cities do partially, which is even worse. I actually like to drive across the street and find out that you're an extra hour ahead.
And
or
the
behind.
Navajo Nation does inside Arizona. So yeah, well, okay, whatever.
Anyway, so all that being said, other than our typical gripes about daylight saving time, We're going to be here at 4:30 Eastern, whatever that time is for you at that point in time, because some of you will be daylight at that point, some of you won't.
Right.
But we'll be here. And if you miss it, that's fine. Most people miss things anyway, so you can watch the recording. Recording hopefully is helpful. Is there anything else we need to cover? I was just trying to remember. Is there any other big news? How was FOSDEM, by the way?
Oh, the Jenkins Contributor Summit was great, Darren. Oh my sakes, we had fun. 4 of 5 Jenkins officers, 4 of 5 board members there. Every Jenkins officer there, we talked about where's Jenkins going for the future? What's the user experience like? What can we do to make migrations easier? How do we improve the Java transition process? Oh, we had a great experience. And then FOSDEM was a lot of fun too, but the Contributor Summit was amazing. Thanks to everyone who attended. People came from all over Europe. We had people in from the United States. An amazing experience to get everybody together to talk about. And we've got some great photos of almost 30 people who are contributors to the Jenkins project. We're looking forward to a blog post coming soon from Kevin Martins highlighting some of the cool things that came out of it.
I saw one video from there, not from the Contributor Summit, but from FOSDEM, about So You Think You Know Git. If you haven't watched that yet, go to YouTube and look for that. It's from Scott. I'm not going to try his last name. It's not that hard.
I thought it was Chacon, right?
I think so. Yeah, he's an ex-GitHub, and he's
But you
now
know that Scott is the author of the Git book.
The Git
it's
book.
available from gitscm.com, right?
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
so when Scott talks about Git, Scott's talking from the position of sort of ultimate authority, right? If I imagine that the other maintainers of Git probably know it really well too, but Scott writes about it and has the definitive book on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you haven't watched that, it's a good video. You will learn probably at least 2 things.
Yep.
And if you don't learn 2 things, go watch it again because you missed them.
Yep.
That's all I'll say about it. So anyway, thanks for being with us here live today. If you're watching the replay, do the YouTube things. Give us a thumbs up when you're all said and done. And we'll be back again in 4 weeks, and we will talk to you then. Mark, thanks for helping out today. I appreciate it. Actually, you weren't helping out. You did the whole thing. I was just driving the buttons. Okay, that's fine.
Thanks very much, Darren. It's a lot of fun. Thank you. Thank you.